We are very pleased to see you, many of you, to join us to mark the International Day of the Disappeared today, here in Geneva. We are not only having this event in Geneva, but I know that over 30 ICRC delegations over the world mark this event in solidarity with the families of the disappeared, of the missing people. So they gather, they have public events, conferences, sometimes simply events with the families of the people who are gone missing. And I'm very pleased to see you all here to mark this day with us. We are here in Geneva in solidarity with the families, but also to raise awareness of one of the world's most complex but also underreported humanitarian challenge. So, of course, we're thinking about the people and their relatives with questions, but we are here also to share experiences, share solutions, and discussing different aspects of this humanitarian problem with a view to bring solutions, bring relief. And for that, we have an incredible panel. We are extremely honored and pleased to welcome for the first time at the Humanitarium Madame Estela Barnes de Carlotto. So it's a great honor to have you. You have inspired my generation. I was 7 when you started your march on the Plaza de Mayo. And I think for me and many of us here in the room, we were just kids, but we understood that it was possible to change the world without weapons, without fighting, that the weak were the strong, that the strong ones were not the ones dictating to others what to do, that it was possible to really change the world. So thanks for coming, especially from Argentina, to be with us. Thank you for that. I will introduce also our other colleagues who will continue the discussion, and together we hope that we will find constructive solutions, positive messages, a message of hope. I would like to also add that it is part of a general effort of the ICRC to raise awareness. We'll have also a special issue of the International Review of the Red Cross on this subject, in which we will feature an interview of Madame de Carlotto. My pleasure now is to introduce Mary Vance. You will find more information on her on this leaflet. Mary Vance is the Deputy Director of Operations here at the ICRC. I know her for some time, and I know how much passion, commitment she has put in this issue, in humanitarian issues, in all the files she handled as Deputy Director of Operations. So she will introduce our discussion this afternoon. Thank you.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear Mrs. Estela Barnes de Carlotto, colleagues and friends, it's a pleasure to welcome you to this gathering marking the International Day of the Disappeared, a day when we remember the disappeared and the missing and stand in solidarity with their family members. I know that many of you would have worked directly with families of missing persons and on the global problem of disappearances. You may have looked into the eyes of a mother as you delivered news to her that her child is alive and well. Or you may have simply sat with a mother, a father, a sibling, or a spouse of a missing person. Yes, simply sitting with them in the pain of that absence. If I may, I would like to ask you to take a moment now to think about the last time that you said goodbye to a close member of your family. Perhaps it was this morning when you went to work. Perhaps it was at an airport. Perhaps it was over the phone. Think about it for a moment. Often our goodbyes are rushed and half considered. We assume that we will meet again soon and pick up where we left off. Now imagine a gap between your last goodbye and your next hello, a gap that stretches indefinitely. Imagine a lifetime of silence. Imagine the waiting. Imagine not knowing where your daughter is, your father, your wife. Is he safe or hurt? Is she hungry or thirsty? Alive? Most of us in this room do not know this pain personally. Thanks to good fortune, our loved ones are safe. But this is the experience of hundreds of thousands of families across the world today. Let us recall that today in Nigeria, in Syria, Iraq, or Afghanistan, today on the Mediterranean Sea, today in Houston, or Bondo, right here in Switzerland, families are experiencing the anguish of waiting for news of missing relatives. Today, we join all families of missing persons in solidarity and in remembering their missing relatives. I say join them, we join them, because in reality, it is the families of missing and disappeared persons who have led the fight to action. In the 1970s, this was led by family associations in South America. And we're deeply honored to have the president of the grandmothers of the Plaza de Mayo, Mrs. Estela Barnes de Carlotto, speaking with us here today. As Vincent said, her courage and perseverance inspires us all. And more importantly, she inspires and brings comfort to families of the missing around the world. It was the action of civil society organizations like hers, associations of ordinary people, parents, siblings, spouses, that woke up the international community to one of the most difficult violations, the ambiguous loss of a family member who's gone missing. If it had not been for the courage of family associations and their very public acts of remembrance, today would not be marked as the International Day of the Disappeared. Addressing the needs of families of missing persons is not just about their individual needs and their right to know the fate of their missing relative. Addressing the needs of families is a crucial element in bringing about peace and stability in this world and in post-conflict contexts. Under international humanitarian law and in international human rights law, it is the responsibility of state authorities to both prevent disappearances from happening and clarify the fate of those reported missing, be they missing in situations of violence and conflict, natural disaster, or missing migrants. But beyond this, it's the responsibility of all of us, our collective responsibility as humans, to remember those who have gone missing and or have been disappeared, and to respond to the plight of their families. A family and the community cannot find closure without knowing what has happened to their missing relative, just as society cannot move forward without knowing its own history. Speaking of her own losses in Srebrenica, Mrs. Munira Subacic said recently, and I quote, "I had my best and my worst memories in Srebrenica. Srebrenica is where my son was born, where he grew up and where he was killed. I want to rebuild trust and reconciliation, but I also want to share the story with young children so that they can learn from the past and also prepare for our common future." The ICRC works with families of the missing in over 40 countries. We always begin from an understanding of the needs of the families, needs which evolve over time. We work to address their health needs, their mental health needs, their social needs, their economic and legal needs, reunifying families in some cases, accompanying families through the identification and burial processes in other cases. And of course, we work with authorities around the world, including in places of detention, in order to prevent disappearance from taking place at all, but also on best practices and professional standards on such issues as prevention of disappearance and identification and dignified management of human remains. But today is not about us. Today is about ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances, ordinary, courageous people. Today we will hear about the pain families suffer when a loved one goes missing, and about how acts of remembrance help to heal, help to empower relatives and communities. Today we join families across the world to remember those who are missing, those who have disappeared. Let us remember that missing persons are absent, but they are not forgotten. They are gone, but they're not lost. History shows us that courageous individuals generate global action. And when courageous individuals are joined by global action, change is ushered into our world. It was the great humanist, Dr. Martin Luther King, who said, and I quote, "The moral arc of the universe is long, but it tends towards justice." Thank you very much.
So thank you very much, Mary. Thank you. So you mentioned Srebrenica. We'll be speaking about Argentina. We'll also be speaking today about Iraq and Syria and about the migrants and so many missing people and people disappearing still today. And this International Day of the Disappeared is the result of the efforts not of the NGOs or maybe international organizations, but of the families' mobilization and family associations, in particular in South America. So one of those family associations was the Abuelas de Plaza de Mayo. So we are honored to have with us Estela Barnes de Carlotto. It's a great honor to have you with us. I won't introduce you. I refer you to the leaflet. We know you've received many awards for the work you've done. And now I think everybody wants to listen to what you learned along this journey.
Muy buenos días a todos, a todas. Y muchísimas gracias a la Cruz Roja por este honor que me da de poder contar algo de los 40 años de historia. Mi nombre es Estela Barnes de Carlotto, presidenta de la Asociación Abuelas de Plaza de Mayo de la República Argentina. En nombre de todas las abuelas, quiero agradecer a los miembros de la Cruz Roja esta invitación que me honra al conmemorarse el Día Internacional del Detenido Desaparecido. Agradezco poder compartir con ustedes nuestra experiencia de dolor y lucha, que no es una lucha individual, sino colectiva. Ojalá nunca hubiésemos estado en este lugar, pero el denominador común de tener un familiar detenido y desaparecido permitió que hace más de 36 años compartiéramos este camino con diferentes organizaciones, fundando en 1981 FEDEFAM, Federación Latinoamericana de Asociaciones de Familiares de Detenidos Desaparecidos. Como miembro de esa organización, como abuela de Plaza de Mayo, he sido invitada para contarles a ustedes acerca de la interminable búsqueda que llevamos adelante por la memoria, la verdad y la justicia, por las sistemáticas desapariciones cometidas por un plan de exterminio cometido por dictaduras cívico-militares que hace 40 años atrás gobernaron nuestra región en el marco de lo que se conoció como el Plan Cóndor y doctrina de la seguridad nacional. En Argentina, el golpe de Estado que puso fin a un gobierno democrático se produjo el 24 de marzo de 1976 y se extendió hasta diciembre de 1983. En ese momento, las fuerzas militares ya gobernaban los países vecinos como Chile, Paraguay y Brasil. Las abuelas de Plaza de Mayo y las madres de Plaza de Mayo, tal como nos bautizó la propia sociedad, luego de vernos circular en forma de protesta en la Plaza de Mayo frente a la Casa de Gobierno, somos consecuencia de ese golpe cívico-militar. Y hablamos de una dictadura cívico-militar porque sin la complicidad de algunos sectores civiles de la población, como fue parte de la Iglesia, de empresarios, de sindicatos y hasta del Poder Judicial, la atrocidad de la dictadura no se hubiese podido concretar. El terror que ese día se impuso en nuestro país consistió en la persecución de todo aquel que era considerado opositor al proyecto económico y político que se iba a ejecutar, sin importar la edad, el sexo, la religión, la ocupación o la condición social de las víctimas. Secuestraron y asesinaron a 30.000 personas. Instalaron más de 600 centros clandestinos de detención y exterminio a lo largo y ancho del país. Y allí fueron llevados como prisioneros clandestinos nuestros hijos e hijas para ser interrogados bajo salvajes torturas y luego asesinados. En ese momento, por primera vez, conocimos lo que significaba el término desaparecido. No está ni vivo ni muerto, está desaparecido, había dicho el general Jorge Rafael Videla en un comunicado oficial en 1976. Ya en democracia, Videla murió en la cárcel luego de ser condenado a cadena perpetua por el plan sistemático de robos de bebés, señalado como genocidio en el año 2012. Este plan hizo tristemente conocida nuestra historia en todo el mundo, porque estos genocidas fueron más allá de la desaparición de personas. De forma generalizada y sistemática, llevaron adelante la apropiación de los hijos y las hijas de los detenidos desaparecidos y de los bebés que nacieron durante el cautiverio de sus madres en esos centros clandestinos que mencionaba y que hemos denominado maternidades clandestinas. El robo de niños y niñas fue el botín de guerra de militares y civiles que 40 años después aún continúan ocultándoles sus verdaderas identidades. Son ellos y ellas nuestros nietos y nietas, son nuestros desaparecidos vivos. Las abuelas de Plaza de Mayo tuvimos así la doble tarea de buscar dos generaciones, la de nuestros hijos e hijas y a nuestros nietos y nietas. Al comienzo fue una lucha peligrosa, en soledad, con la incomprensión del entorno social y familiar, que adoptó eslogans como «por algo será», «en algo andaban», «a mí no me pasó». El terror de esa época no nos paralizó e inventamos una forma de instituir lo vivo, haciendo público lo que se pretendía privado y oculto. Buscamos 500 niños, hoy ya jóvenes adultos, y a pesar de aquellos que los apropiaron, se empeñaron en borrar sus huellas mediante la mentira, pudimos ubicar hasta el día de hoy a 122 de ellos y lograr la restitución de su identidad y la recuperación de los vínculos familiares biológicos, haciendo a partir del regreso de la democracia uso de las leyes y de las instituciones del Estado. Sin embargo, las abuelas de Plaza de Mayo no hemos sido el único grupo de víctimas conformado con el objetivo de buscar a nuestros familiares. Como consecuencia del accionar del terrorismo de Estado en toda América Latina, nacieron diversos grupos de familiares para la búsqueda de los seres queridos desaparecidos. Todos transitamos dolores semejantes y la impunidad local que nos silenciaba. Por esa razón, vimos la necesidad de aunar esfuerzos y la experiencia en una lucha colectiva regional. Dimos comienzo así a la Federación Latinoamericana de Asociaciones de Familiares de Detenidos Desaparecidos, FEDEFAM, siendo abuelas de Plaza de Mayo como miembro fundador e integrante hasta estos días. Esta unión, que se materializó como FEDEFAM, tuvo dos convocatorias fundantes. En 1981, cuando nuestro país aún estaba bajo dictadura, la primera reunión fue a principios de ese año en San José de Costa Rica, la segunda fue en noviembre en Caracas, capital de Venezuela. FEDEFAM quedó así constituido como un organismo no gubernamental de carácter independiente de toda institución política o religiosa que se inspiró en la profunda convicción democrática de los pueblos latinoamericanos. Para ese momento, las abuelas de Plaza de Mayo ya habíamos comprendido que, mientras en nuestro país tuvieran el poder quienes eran los asesinos de nuestros hijos e hijas, debíamos buscar la ayuda fuera de las fronteras. La comunidad internacional fue muy solidaria con nosotros. Muchos organismos sociales, como el Movimiento Internacional para la Unión entre las Razas y los Pueblos, UFER, Amnistía Internacional, la Cruz Roja, SOS Tortura, el Consejo Mundial de Iglesias, entre otros, brindaron una ayuda incalculable al permitirnos como víctimas concurrir a la Asamblea de Naciones Unidas y ocupar su lugar para que pudiéramos dar a conocer nuestra historia. En ese momento, la diplomacia argentina de la dictadura caminaba a los pasillos de Ginebra para presionar a los expertos de derechos humanos para que no avanzara en resoluciones favorables a nosotros y tratando de amedrentarnos con su presencia. De la misma forma, muchos gobiernos e iglesias y grupos solidarios internacionales nos brindaron y nos brindan su protección. Nosotras, todas mujeres comunes, algunas profesionales, otras amas de casa, nunca habíamos imaginado tener que recorrer tribunales presentando habeas corpus, averiguación de paraderos, escritos por nosotras mismas. No sabíamos qué era eso. Lo que sí entendimos rápidamente que por la impunidad que permitían las desapariciones, nuestros reclamos solo podían tener respuestas en un instrumento internacional apropiado. Aún en los años de terror nos encontramos con miembros de la Comisión Interamericana de Derechos Humanos que visitó Argentina en 1979 y ante quienes denunciamos la desaparición de cada uno de nuestros hijos con toda la documentación que habíamos presentado vanamente en la justicia de nuestro país. Pero simultáneamente las dictaduras de América Latina ejercían ante los organismos internacionales de protección a los derechos humanos presiones diplomáticas con el objetivo de evitar que su actuación, que sabían eficaz, generara una pequeña ruptura a la censura imperante y poder así en conocimiento de la comunidad internacional. Para 1981, los familiares habíamos comprendido la gravedad del delito de la desaparición forzada en la violación de varios derechos fundamentales, el derecho a la seguridad, a la integridad, al reconocimiento de la personería jurídica, al derecho a la libertad y el derecho a no ser sometido a torturas ni tratos crueles, inhumanos o degradantes. Sin embargo, este camino no fue rápido ni fácil. Un año antes de constituirnos como FEDEFAM, la Comisión de Derechos Humanos de Naciones Unidas creó el Grupo de Trabajo sobre Desapariciones Forzadas o Involuntarias con un mandato fundamentalmente humanitario. El Grupo de Trabajo es el más antiguo de los procedimientos especiales de la Comisión de Derechos Humanos, encargado expresamente de examinar y vigilar a nivel mundial la ejecución de las desapariciones forzadas, grave violación a los derechos humanos, así como es el encargado de informar pública y regularmente sobre el estado observado, de manera de alertar a los gobiernos o activar a la comunidad para defender a sus víctimas. Los expertos que conformaron ese primer grupo escucharon con emoción y respeto nuestras informaciones sobre lo acontecido y las estrategias para lograr respuestas del gobierno usurpador. Así, año tras año, fuimos recibidas para exponer y entregar la información de avances que íbamos consiguiendo. Fuimos siempre recibidas con consideración y respeto, escuchadas en nuestros desgarradores relatos con las heridas abiertas como madres, abuelas de las víctimas de desaparición forzada. Este grupo de expertos nos inspiraron confianza, asegurando la confidencialidad de lo que narrábamos. En 1983 y 1984, la Asamblea General de la Organización de Estados Americanos, OEA, y luego el Consejo de Europa condenaron la desaparición y declararon que su práctica masiva constituía un crimen de lesa humanidad. En ese último año se elaboró un primer proyecto bajo los auspicios del Instituto de Derechos Humanos de la Orden de Abogados de París, reconocido como el primer coloquio internacional que contó con la participación del escritor argentino Julio Cortázar y miembros de organismos de Argentina y otros países latinoamericanos, y que se realizó en el Senado de Francia. Años más tarde, FETEFAM trabajó en un segundo proyecto de convención junto a los miembros del grupo de trabajo. Sin embargo, recién en 1992 las Naciones Unidas adoptó la Declaración sobre la protección de todas personas contra desaparición forzada. Esta declaración y la conformación del grupo de trabajo fueron pasos vitales en la lucha de la comunidad internacional para la protección de las víctimas y la condena de este delito. En agosto de 1998, la Subcomisión de Promoción y Protección de los Derechos Humanos aprobó el proyecto de Convención Internacional para la Protección de todas las personas contra las desapariciones forzosas. Luego de 4 años de trabajo y varias reuniones de consulta con expertos de Naciones Unidas, como Louis Joanet y organizaciones no gubernamentales. La Comisión de Derechos Humanos, en su 57 periodo de sesiones, designó un experto independiente en el mandato de examinar el marco internacional existente en materia penal y derechos humanos sobre desaparición forzada y a determinar los posibles vacíos legales a fin de asegurar la plena protección contra las desapariciones forzadas o involuntarias. Por este motivo, se conformó un equipo de expertos con el mandato de elaborar un proyecto de instrumento normativo jurídicamente vinculante para la protección de todas las personas contra las desapariciones forzadas. El mismo fue presidido por el embajador de Francia ante Naciones Unidas, Bernard Quessetjian. Asistieron los representantes de los Estados miembros de la Comisión y como observadores los representantes de los países que no son miembros. Asimismo, estuvieron representadas varias organizaciones como estatus consultivo en el Consejo Económico Social y entre ellas FEDEFAM. Este equipo trabajó durante 3 años con delegados de 60 países y los organismos de derechos humanos que tenían voz pero no voto. El jueves 22 de septiembre del año 2005, después de esos 3 años de debate y de valiosos aportes por parte de los asistentes, el embajador Quessetjian anunció solemnemente la aprobación tácita de un proyecto de convención internacional para la protección de todas las personas contra las desapariciones forzadas y en el 2006 fue aprobada unánimemente por el reciente creado Consejo de Derechos Humanos de Naciones Unidas. Finalmente, la convención quedó sancionada luego de su paso por la Asamblea General de las Naciones Unidas en Nueva York, que de la misma forma que en junio fue aprobada sin votos en contra, en diciembre de ese mismo año. 2 meses más tarde, en París, en el Ministerio de Relaciones Exteriores de Francia, fue reconocida por 70 países, y la convención entró en vigencia con la firma de 2 países, las primeras firmas, Francia y Argentina, y estuvimos las abuelas presentes en ese acto. Desde el año 2010 funciona en el ámbito de Naciones Unidas el Comité contra la Desaparición Forzada, conformada por expertos independientes que supervisan e implementan la implementación de la Convención en los Estados partes que la han ratificado y que tienen la obligación de informar cómo se aplican los derechos que se refiere en dichos países. Entre las principales causas de la expansión de las desapariciones forzadas estaban sin duda la ausencia de la legalización que penalizara su práctica y el tratamiento de impunidad legal y de facto con que históricamente había sido tratado este crimen atroz en los países afectados. En consecuencia, se vulneraban múltiples principios y derechos reconocidos a las víctimas, como el Sistema Universal de Naciones Unidas, entre ellos el derecho a un recurso eficaz, el derecho a la verdad y a una justicia pronta, imparcial e independiente. La Argentina recuperó la democracia en diciembre de 1983, pero aún no se recuperó la verdad total, ni se ha completado el proceso de juzgamiento de los genocidas. En los últimos 10 años, como marco de una política de Estado basada justamente en la memoria y la justicia, hemos podido condenar a un gran grupo de responsables militares. Sin embargo, nos queda la deuda pendiente de juzgar por los mismos crímenes y en justicia ordinaria a quienes fueron partícipes directos y cómplices desde la sociedad civil. La desaparición forzada no es en América solo una responsabilidad del Estado dictatorial. Este año, las abuelas de Plaza de Mayo cumplimos 40 años de existencia, 40 años de incansable búsqueda, y como familiar de una detenida desaparecida, pero con la suerte, si es correcto el uso de este término, de haber recibido el cuerpo de mi hija luego de ser asesinado, no puedo decir que es imposible hacer el duelo de ese ser querido que no está sin saber qué pasó con él. Hoy, gracias al equipo argentino de antropología forense, 720 detenidos desaparecidos durante el terrorismo de Estado han sido enterrados como NN, fueron identificados y restituidos los restos a sus familias. Esto no es un dato menor, aunque la cifra lo parezca frente a los 30.000 desaparecidos. Es imprescindible para una sociedad conocer su historia, identificar a sus muertos, saber qué pasó con ellos para poder avanzar. Y en este sentido, Abuelas de Plaza de Mayo ha reconstruido la memoria y la historia individual de cada papá y mamá desaparecido a partir de la implementación de un archivo biográfico familiar que contempla la vida de la familia social y política de estos desaparecidos, para que cuando se produzca el encuentro de nuestros nietos y nietas, estos tengan la palabra y la historia de quienes fueron sus padres. El archivo biográfico familiar es una herramienta, una de las más importantes con las que contamos en la institución en contra del olvido, garantizando el derecho de cada nieto a conocer su origen y su historia. Un poquito de agua. Lamentablemente, hoy, en este día, se conmemora y nos invita a estar aquí reunidos, reflexionando. Quiero, y es mi obligación como referente mundial de un organismo de defensa de derechos humanos, mencionar que las desapariciones forzadas siguen tan vigentes como antes de la implementación de la Convención, que han cambiado tal vez las formas y los gobiernos, pero en América Latina se sigue sufriendo de desapariciones diarias de miles de militantes, de periodistas, de opositores políticos. En muchos lugares las desapariciones se vinculan con el desarrollo del narcotráfico y de la delincuencia organizada, con el tráfico y la trata de personas, con los movimientos migratorios internos y fronterizos. Recuerdo aquí la desaparecidos de México, país que sufre la sistemática desaparición de jóvenes luchadores y de hombres y mujeres que intentan cruzar la frontera hacia los Estados Unidos, la desaparición de periodistas, pero también hay desaparecidos en Colombia, en El Salvador, en Honduras y lamentablemente también en mi país. Es muy importante que todos nos adaptemos a estas nuevas situaciones, que sepamos aprender de lo ocurrido en el pasado para ayudar a las víctimas del presente. Como hace más de 36 años, cumplimos 40, dije, la colaboración internacional en estos casos, la denuncia que ellos puedan hacer, así como las recomendaciones a los Estados parte de los organismos internacionales, el trabajo humanitario del grupo de trabajo, el compromiso asumido para resguardar el cumplimiento de la Convención contra desapariciones forzadas por parte del Comité, es tan importante hoy como lo fue antes. Los aliento, los insto a ustedes, miembros de esta comunidad internacional, a continuar trabajando para profundizar los mecanismos existentes y generar lo necesario para estar cerca de las víctimas, de los familiares, de las organizaciones que en momentos críticos más los necesitan. Por la memoria, la verdad, por la justicia, nunca más. Gracias.
Thank you very much. I think, well, of course, you didn't choose this life or this second life you had when this event started, but you rose up to the challenge, and I think you went beyond what anybody could expect from someone under such difficult circumstances, under dictatorship. Not only mobilizing you and the other mothers and grandmothers, a popular movement in your country, but mobilizing the international community. And since you were reunited with your son in 2014, you continued to work for other missing people. And I think by doing that, you are moving far beyond what anybody could expect from a simple citizen placed in such difficult circumstances. So thank you for sharing this testimony with us. Now, as we know well, not everybody can be found alive. Families who wait for news have to cope, and sometimes they just cannot cope, and they don't find the support they need to cope with the anguish, with this absence of news. So now I'm turning to my colleagues who have both tremendous experience working in this field. So it's a great privilege to have you two also share your experience today. Before giving the floor to Carla, we will first listen to you, José Pablo. José Pablo Berebar is forensic coordinator at the ICRC. You have huge experience working for different organizations in different countries which experience conflicts. So today we'll be speaking also about the fate of the missing migrants, something really very concerning since a few years. It's not a new issue, but we've seen terrible figures about the number of people disappearing, crossing the deserts or crossing the sea. So José Pablo, floor is yours. Thank you.
Your Excellencies, Mrs. Stella Barnes de Carlotto, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. While in the train to Geneva, I found out that Mama Angelica, as we call her, one of the founding members of the Association of Disappeared Persons in Peru and FACEP, passed away at 88 on Monday. She has been looking for the last 34 years for her son Archimedes, 16 at the time, that was taken to the military base of Los Cabitos in the highlands of Ayacucho due to the internal armed conflict in Peru, my home country. I would like to dedicate this talk to her and to mothers like her that continue the struggle. The term disappearance is a euphemism. While a euphemism should by definition offend or suggest something unpleasant, the noun has been widely used and is in constant evolution to the void of its meaning, the same meaning that brought us together here. Today, disappeared or missing still refer to people, to individuals named and loved by somebody, identity suppressed that we ought to restore. Today we are here to remember all those whose lives did not make the headlines, all those whose memory is not fought for with the same intensity as those we know or are known by us. I'm a forensic anthropologist. Prior to joining the ICRC, and due to the nature of my work, I faced situations in which I thought my life would be terminated, and others would bear the burden of determining what happened to me or where I ended up. I would like to believe, though, that due to who I am or to what I did, my life is grievable. A term I'm borrowing from a well-known philosopher. I'm sure, however, my daughters would be held by others. I would not stop until finding out what exactly happened to me, what I felt, what I thought in those last moments of life. However, sometimes other less pleasant thoughts, come to me, invade me, and I believe then or think, who besides my daughters would preserve glimpses of who I was or what I did? Who beside them would hold tightly to information that may assist in restoring my identity? Would I turn to dust in a forgotten hole? Would I be found by accident when digging up for a water pipe? Who else would fight to know what happened to me? We all have family members, parents, children, in-laws, friends as family, and we all consider our lives worth remembering, worth fighting for. Regrettably, however, the grief of many other people is ignored or simply invisible. When Hussein was pointing at the grave, he told me he brought the bodies in a cart to the hall that had already been prepared in this place. He said that blood was dripping from the cart and left a trail from that location to the hall. He even had a bottle of water with him, and he splashed some water to show me graphically how this happened. And he went on saying, they forced me to dump all the bodies in the hall as animals without dignity. That is not fair. We have the right to be buried as the humans we are. While this occurred in the Horn of Africa, I have heard the story anywhere I go. Because the dead have rights, and we are here to defend those rights. Posthumous rights, if you wish, as they may seem. Although our right to live fully is something overlooked by the place where we were born, or by the reality we have lived, we all have the right to die as people worthy of universal respect. As a forensic scientist, you may be perceived, sometimes you even believe it, to be a detective of sorts, that based on a few clues attempt to reconstruct in retrospect the last chapter of someone else's life, to restore their identities as human beings, as children, as husbands, as people. And now more than ever, I believe that our work is necessary to transform the invisible border made of unidentified corpses that further divide nations, people, and territories. If I may be clear, according to the International Organization of Migration, IOM, during the first semester of 2017, a total of 3,510 migrants have died worldwide. And guess what? Of those, 2,410 died trying to cross the Mediterranean Sea into Europe. These 2,410 add to some of the 20,000 that have already died in the last decade, trying to look for a better life or escaping conflict. While the numbers are ominous, I invite you to consider how many families stand by those numbers, how much humanity, how much grief, and how much hope those numbers contain. Today is a day of remembrance. Remembrance is, however, an action, and as such should entail concrete steps. We should not believe even for a moment that our duty to remember those who disappeared, although we know nobody disappears. In various circumstances, have our attention for a day. Rather, we should take action to find them, dead or alive, identify them and return them to the families. Until then, mothers like Estela, or fathers like me, will be here to remind you of a duty that represents the essence of what we are, human beings. Thank you.
Thank you very much, José Pablo. Thank you for sharing this experience, and I think not only discussing maybe the, let's say, medical dimensions or the forensic dimension, but also you put in very human terms what it feels to experience this issue, this disappearance of your relatives. Now I'd like to turn to Carla. We'll discuss also this psychological dimension, but also the support we can give to the families of those who disappeared. I think Mary started this event by asking us to put ourselves in this position, thinking about our friends and relatives that we saluted this morning, that we said goodbye, and then thinking about what happened if we don't see them again. And so I think we'll continue on that and listen to your experience. Thank you.
Madame de Carlotto has shared with us the public dimension of activism of the hundreds of mothers and family members in Latin America. I would actually like to focus more on the private dimension of the remembrance. I can see that there are several families, I assume families of missing in the public, because you have brought your pictures. So what I will be sharing with you is what other family members have shared with us, and hopefully you will allow me to do this, because at the end I'm, in a way, trying to convey your voice from the psychological, so my permission for that. What I'm going to share is what I have learned as a psychologist in the mental health and psychosocial programs of the ICRC, in the work we do, of what Mary was mentioning, or when we join the families, when we accompany the families. Today is a day of remembrance, and mothers and family members, they remember. They remember from the first day, they remember for weeks, for years, they remember for decades, they remember until the day they die, basically. They remember, and it marks their lives. Nothing is the same once a loved one has disappeared. Like we were saying, once you say goodbye, sometimes not realizing you might not see them again. What I would like to share with you today is how this memory, how this remembrance actually overshadows your life, and it can overshadow all of the experiences of your life, the sorrow, the suffering, the mental distress that is related to the loss of not knowing. It makes it difficult for families to cope. I will focus on the psychosocial and psychological aspects, but there are other aspects. There are the economic, the legal, the administrative. It cannot be thought of on its own. In some cases, like we have heard from Madame de Carlotto, there are also security and protection issues, but I will focus on the psychological and psychosocial impact. So remembering the loved one who has gone missing is a complicated and a lonely process. It is complicated because although it is a loss, the person is no longer there, it is what Mary has also mentioned, we call an ambiguous loss. Now, this term of ambiguous loss refers to the fact that you don't know what has happened. So is he dead? Is he alive? But then if he's dead, why is he not calling? I mean, if he's dead, where is he? Where is his body? Is he being eaten up? Like Jose Paulo was saying, this is crucial to give that answer. If she's alive, why is she not calling? Is she somewhere waiting for me to find her? How can I get on with my life? Not knowing if she's waiting for me to appear, but not knowing or what else could I do to find her? So this not knowing, this uncertainty, is many times portrayed and felt as something like you're going crazy, because you might believe he's dead, but she can come back tomorrow. And it's this not knowing that we say, that's why we say it's a complicated loss. But it's also complicated because of the lack of control. Many times, and unfortunately not all families, have the moment or the contextual possibilities of uniting and becoming more, having the activism like Madame de Carlotto did, or I would also like to say and honor the memory of Mama Angelica, who is one of those mothers in Latin America that could manage to go into a more active way of managing by making it public. But many families don't have that possibility, either because their context doesn't allow it, or because sometimes they become immobilized. The pain, the sorrow, just does not allow them to move on into this, move forward to this type of activism, if that's what they wish. Not everybody is also their wish. So added to this uncertainty and complication, there's another dimension within families that are sometimes not very well understood, and it is that inside the family there can be what we call conflicted narratives. So I'll explain what this is with an example. In one of the families that we accompanied, the father shared with us that for him it was extremely distressing because his wife believed that their son was alive and could potentially come back any moment. So for her, it was really important to leave the house completely frozen, as if nothing had changed from the moment that he left. And on top of that, she wanted many pictures of him so that when he came back, he would see how much he had been present. Now, decades had passed since he had gone missing. For the father, this was too distressing. He believed that he was probably dead, although he might come back, again, the ambiguity, and that he couldn't live with this constant memory of the disappearance, of not knowing, and of the loss. So this is why we say that sometimes there's also conflicting narratives, which means that inside the family it can be very lonely, because you can, even if you share the experience, you might not share it in the same way, and then it becomes a lonely process. And there's not only the family dimension, there is the social and community dimension that makes it lonely, like we have heard also from in different aspects. It can be lonely because, to begin with, there are no rituals related to acknowledging that someone has disappeared. In the majority of cultures, there is not such thing as a ritual. So in the absence of rituals, how would you do? So if you have a neighbor that has a son or a mother or a father that is missing, when you encounter them in the shop, it becomes very awkward because there's no formula on how you approach that person. You cannot give condolences because the person's not dead. And many times you don't really know how to approach, so you don't. It becomes the unspeakable. And in that sense, it can become very lonely. Now, this is one aspect but then the other sometimes, when it can be just the lack of understanding of what it means to have a family member, which makes it lonely. So, Madame de Carlotto was sharing with us before about some people telling them, well, if they're disappeared, it's because they must have done something. So there is, in a way, the guilt that could be associated. Some other times, it's just it's been 20 years, get on with it. Move on in your life. Why are you still grieving? And again, it's because they don't really understand that it's not you're not grieving the death of someone in which the rituals have allowed you to process it. You're still waiting for an answer. You still don't know. I would also like to pick up on what Jose Pablo was saying, and I'll quote you on this one. He was saying that in the process, when there is a process to search and recover human remains, which is not always the case, but when that happens, and it's possible, he said that it is a process to reconstruct the last chapter on someone's life, the last chapter. This means that it's also the moment to reconstruct and to ask the family about the last time they saw their loved one, with all of the details of what happened at that moment, of every detail of what he was wearing, what she was, where she said she would be going. And these details sometimes are related to very traumatic memories, because many times these disappearances take place in a moment where other traumatic events are taking place. Participating as a family member in a search and recovery process can also implicate having to go back to memories that unleash a lot of repressed emotions, a lot of repressed memories. It's also a moment of great expectation and of hope. It is a process that brings about the hope that finally you will know, the fear that you will finally know, and again, there's also an ambiguity in this. If the missing person is identified, in spite of the relief to finally know what has happened, there is also the pain of finally knowing the details on how that person died. If the person is not identified, there is again the ambiguity of, I might feel relieved because, okay, so she's not dead, she might come back. But there's also sometimes the guilt of thinking, well, I wish that she was dead, which is a bit horrible to think. And it can be, I wish that I could have the body identified, given to me, and in a way finally know what has happened. So, what to do? We said that we would bring forward some ideas on what can be done. And we do believe at the ICRC that there are things that can be done, that there are ways to support and accompany these families. And this is what experience has shown in the last years, almost decades. Ideally, mental health and psychosocial support responses should be part of a holistic program that takes into account all of the other needs that I mentioned. But I will focus on the psychological and psychosocial aspects of what can be done. So the minimum on how can we support, the minimum would be to be able to sensitize all of those professionals that are working with the families of missing, so forensic experts, public prosecutors, so that they are sensitized and understand that when they're asking and relating with the families, they might be unleashing all of these and triggering all of these difficult memories. We also believe that even in the absence of a process of search and recovery, there are the possibility to create support groups or support systems. Sometimes support groups are not possible because the person is too far away, or if it's someone that is more aging, cannot join the group, but still can benefit from home visits or individual support. And in some cases, there are people that need specialized mental health support because the process has been so difficult that it has triggered some specific needs that are not, that a support group is not enough to cover. So to do so, we train and we support local associations and NGOs. And ideally, we train accompaniers. So these would be empathic persons that can do this process of support, that can lead this process of support in which the family needs can be addressed. Now, this is the how, but what helps? Why would it be helpful to do this type of programs? So some of the things that help are basic yet quite profound. One of the things that helps is to name the problem. I think because I was saying it can be a very lonely experience, naming the problem allows to normalize the feelings. I have had this experience once and again If you speak with a family that has a person that has disappeared, and you explain about ambiguous loss, for example, always the reaction is like, yes, this is something that this is something that explains the way I'm feeling. This is something that explains the way my brother has been feeling, my mother has been feeling. So just normalizing the feelings so that you attribute them to the circumstances and not to the individual can be very soothing. And I'll give you the example of a mother of a 20-year-old man who has recently gone missing in Iraq. One of our colleague psychologists was speaking with his mother, and she explained to me that she had shared this idea of ambiguous loss, and the mother said, and I will quote, "Now that you have explained about ambiguous loss, I feel that I can see that my feelings are normal. They make sense, and I am no longer afraid that I am going crazy." It still surprises me after all of these years working with the victims of war, how powerful it can be when it's well done. The other thing that can help is knowing that maybe you cannot resolve the ambiguity, because maybe you will not have answers, but you can learn to live with the ambiguity. So the moment you accept that I can live with the idea of he's dead and he might be coming tomorrow, it's okay to have that thought, and you can live with that thought. And again, this might sound simple, but when you work through this with family members, sometimes it's very powerful. We also promote that family meet each other when possible, because we have found that it breaks the isolation, like I was mentioning, because one very powerful aspect of this is that they can be with others that truly understand them. I think Mary has done a good job of trying to put us in the mind and the heart of someone that is gone missing, but it's not the same. Not even me as a psychologist that has worked with many families can do that. It's really powerful when you can be with others that have gone through the same. And it also helps to find meaning of the experience. We do train the accompaniers so that these meetings and this work is done in a safe and healing environment, so that it becomes a space of healing. The other thing that can be done is facilitating the communication within the family. So I mentioned about this man who was struggling because the house had been frozen, and how difficult it was for him to see that his wife still felt that the son could come at any moment. So one thing that can be done is to support this family in creating these bonds, in empathizing with each other and accepting that the ambiguity can also be an ambiguity inside the house. So either they can work through and find a common narrative of what has happened, or maybe they can accept that they were not going to have a common narrative, and that it's okay for you to believe that he's going to come back tomorrow, and it's okay for me to need not to have him ever present as if he was going to come back tomorrow. And maybe what we can do, if I was talking with my family member, is that there is a room in which everything is left as if it was frozen, with all of his pictures there, but the rest of the house doesn't have that. So facilitating this type of communication can already be useful for some families, like we have seen in our programs. But it's not all about bringing and talking about traumatic memories and difficult memories. We also promote that fond memories are brought to the group and to the mind and to the heart. So, for example, in Lebanon, we are collaborating with an art therapy, an association that works through art therapy. And in the therapeutical process, what is done is that each family will have a chair, and then they will be projecting the attributes and the memories, the fond memories of their loved one in that chair. So they will be painting the chair, and at the end, sometimes it is done with several family members together, and then they agree on what they want in that chair. So these chairs, the process in itself is therapeutical, but actually some families decide to use this chair to do public presentations and to advocate for the search to continue, because some of these people loved ones have been missing for 40 years. Now, working through memories is tricky. It can be very healing, but it can also be tricky. And this is where we believe that it has to be done with care so that it's not counterproductive. And that's why we believe in capacity building processes in which we support local actors and sometimes accompaniers to do this in a safe and constructive manner. I would like to end by highlighting that the 30th of August is a very special day for the families because they can be together with others. They're not alone. It's certainly a day in which they are not alone, in which the loneliness, it's a day in which the understanding is there. In many countries around the world, acts like these are taking place, and in many occasions it's the families that are here in the panel or certainly in the public. And what we would like to share with you now is a short video so that you can get a glimpse of what I'm talking about. So what does a support group look like? And you will see a group of mothers that have found a way to share their grief and to support each other, but also to share their grief with the community. So we will see that now. Thank you.
Այդ օրվանից միջև հիմա ես գիտեմ, որ իմ երեխան կենդանի է։ Աչքս կպնում երազով ճշգրիտ, այս սկզբի քանի տարի, 2-3 տարի որ եմ տեսնում։ Ասում էր մամա, անգել եմ շրջափակման մեջ, դու էլ հավատում ես, որ ես մեռել եմ։ Քսեր եսի գժվեք, տանեմ գժանոց։ Այդ ապրումներից գիտեր ես գժվեր եմ։ Անդրանիկ վերջի անգամ տեսել եմ 1993 թվականի դեկտեմբերի 23-ի։ Առավոտյան տանի ժամին դուրս եկի ինձ հաջողարը այդտեղ։ Փափախնել թողեց, թող մամ ջան կգամ տանեմ։ 31-ի առավոտյան էլ լուրն եմ լսել։
Axırıncı dəfə mənim yoldaşımla əlaqəm onda oldu ki, biz 14 iyul yoldaşım hündür boy, qarayanız, qara göz, saçı qıvrım, xəsiyyətcə çox mülayim. Biz 3 il ailəli olduq, amma bir-birimizi çox gözəl başa düşürdük. Aramızda hələ indiyəcən 3 il ərzində. Biz 90-cı ildə ailə həyatı qurduq, 93-də yoldaşım eyli oldu.
Պապիրոզի սորոք տրակտրա տարել, տվեք քերել այդ տարածքն, որ ինք չոքեց սկսեմ մանդր քանդել, որ գոնեմ մի փշուր, այդ պապիրոզի սորոք քնող, այդ 2 մետրանոց բոյով տղից, նուժելի մի կտոր բան չեր գտնի, գամ մի նասկի, մի շոր, բերեր նմուշ, որ ասես իմ Անդրանիկի շորն հանե թող էդ է։ Քշերով էր եթում, ես որ քնիքս էր գիժա, կլիմ հետևից կգա։ Իմ որ կրթանի տակից ագրապտիկա ճուտ տանի, որ կրթանք թռնի։ Այ այդ պահեր ես այդ վիճակի։ Լուժ ջան, դու չի գալի մարդի։ Բանից ասում ես չես նիրվայնանում, հա։
Գելի թափում դնում, էլի չղայնանում, էլի ձեր անեկդոտները պատմում եք ամեն ինչը ձեր այդ
դագարի մեջ էլ վիճակը գաս։
Every single opportunity makes them really hope again that their missing loved one is alive, and at the same time these long years of waiting make them also feel despaired and hopeless. And that's why they can't move and keep in this paralyzed, frozen state, not able to live normal life, but also not able to grieve and make a closure to their loss.
Demək olar ki, mən bu son vaxtlarcan yaşamaq nədir bilmişəm. Salam, salam, salam. Açdın mı? Yaxşı, sən şirkət nə dərsən?
Kim deyir ki ömür harda biter ay kardeşim. O bir paydır kime yetmez, kime yeter ay kardeşim. Bilen yoktur azı çoku, Allah sever körlü toku. Hayat sanki meyil, giden akım görünmeyir. Gözüme yuxu gelmeyir, gece geçer ay kardeşim.
Neyniyə bilərik? Hamımız eyni dərdli insanlarıq, amma biz başımızı aşağı dikməməliyik.
Güllür xalanı tanımırdım, Cəmiləni tanımırdım, Şövkəti tanımırdım. Mən bilmirdim ki, mən elə bilirdim ki, təkcə itkin ailəsi mənəm.
Mənəm.
O ağrını ancaq mən yaşayıram.
The company program in Azerbaijan is set up as a community approach where we collaborate with a local NGO, and their members are actually also families of missing. So what they're doing is providing peer support. They know exactly what the families have been through because they're in the same situation. And what they do is get people together in groups where they're given a chance to talk about the missing person and to express their grief.
Şu kadar bu bizimkilerden de gel bunu da götüreyim.
First time they came was difficult, was like overcoming themselves. But now you see it's becoming a nice group. They are smiling. They are really taking care of themselves. They are really telling stories and this sharing and asking each other also how is your son, your other son or your daughter is doing is also was not possible a few years ago.
Kucağımıza rütüme severvenk, ili văd ce așhariți cătervenk. Ինչ որ ամիս մի անգամ կունետան իս դուս կալ severvel, թե չէ ամբողջ օրտուն այդ մտքի հետ կռևեն տալի։ Թե ինչի պիտի սենցելներ, նենցելներ։ Լուսինե, բավորի մացանք որ պիտի չգա։ Լուս, ես ուրիշ բան չեմ ուզում մտեղ։ Մենակ է թեթևություն էլի։
Bilirsiniz, ağacdan nəysə bir bar ki, qırıb yeyəndə o bir ehsan sayılır. Biz itkinlərimiz üçün bu ağacı əkmişik ki, mənim yoldaşım da tut ağacını daha çox sevərdi. O sevdiyinə görə biz burada tut ağacı da, ginələr ağacı da, müəyyən ağaclara əkməkdə bir-birimizə dayaq olduq, dəstək olduq, belə bir itkinlər bağı saldıq. Ki, bu ağac barı gətirsin gələcək zamanda buradan yoldan keçən, ötən onun barını qırıb yesin.
Thank you very much, Carla. Thank you for your presentation and thank you for the film which shows the efforts to help people, and I quote you, learn to live with the ambiguity. And I think sometimes, of course, we would like to have closure, we'd like to find solutions, but it's so important also to be able to live with the ambiguity. I think it's the true meaning of resilience. Which is to be able to cope with the trauma and wage a normal life. So thanks for sharing this with everyone and sharing advice, practical advice on how to deal with this situation and how to help the people who are suffering from something which they cannot name. That's what I also got from your presentation. So now we have plenty of time for questions. Before I conclude, I just want to give the word to Madame de Carlotto, maybe to share some of her thoughts about this long journey she has been living since 1977, and also maybe the future of our association and of her work. So the floor is yours for the last final words.
Nosotros nacimos en una lucha de amor. El amor por un hijo, un nieto o un esposo, un hermano, no termina nunca, no tiene fin, no hay límite. Empezamos una lucha en paz, sin violencias, y esperando los tiempos y las oportunidades para avanzar en dictadura y en democracia. No tenemos odio, no tenemos rencor ni deseos de venganza, de justicia. Y somos alegres, porque este empecinamiento del amor nos dio sus frutos. Hemos revertido la intención de que por el terror y el miedo nunca se hablara. ¿Tuvimos miedo? Sí. No, a mí me quisieron matar, sí. Pero el amor es más fuerte que todo eso. Y por eso la alegría de estar juntas, de festejar acontecimientos gratos, más grato que el encuentro de un nieto es el mejor premio que tenemos. Y ese premio no es, dice, bueno, ya terminé. No. Mi hija descansará en paz. Encontramos el nieto mío y el de otros. Y las abuelas seguimos buscando los que faltan para las abuelas que todavía tienen sus brazos vacíos. Y no vamos a dejar mientras tengamos vida. Solo la muerte nos va a parar. Esperemos vivir mucho.
Thank you. So it's time to conclude. Thank you very much for coming from Argentina and coming to us today for this special day of remembrance for the 40th anniversary also of the first march of the mothers and grandmothers of the Plaza de Mayo. I want to leave this room with the questions that were raised, the question you raised at the beginning of this session, to think about, your relatives, your friends, what would it feel to not to know, but their whereabouts, the people we said goodbye this morning. So I keep this question. Keep another question you asked: who would be assisting in restoring my identity if I disappear? This idea that we all think that our lives are important, that our identity is important. Another question you asked, Carla, about the fact that the families of the disappeared want to give meaning, what kind of meaning they can give. And I think it's something we can all relate to. We all want to give meaning to what happens to our lives. And some of us think of religion or ideology or the power of reason. But I think what you gave us today was this example of what the power of the love of a mother can achieve. And we are very grateful to that, because we can see that, yes, there are bigger meanings and strength in the world which have absolutely no opposition. So thanks for this example you're giving us.